Hey guys, welcome to the video series on GCP for data engineers. Hope you guys are doing well and staying safe. In today's video, we're going to talk about the basics of BigQuery and covering the topics: what is it, where it fits in, what's its data structure, etc. And also performing a live demo to see how it works. So without further ado, let's start. First question, what is BigQuery? BigQuery is the Google Enterprise Cloud Data Warehouse. It's a modern data warehouse, which is a serverless, it's a serverless service. So we don't have to deploy any resources or VMs or such as VMs or disk in Google infrastructure. It is very highly scalable, which allow users to run petabyte of data with quick processing time using the Google infrastructure. And underneath BigQuery, it separate the storage and the processing, which make it cost effective and fast. In terms of cost effectiveness, I always recommend to please check the Google site or connect with somebody, connect with a Google representative to get the latest pricing informations, because they have the most accurate information. But as far as I'm aware, like BigQuery provides you 10 gigs of storage per month free, and also 1 terabytes of processing data free. So BigQuery is a modern data warehouse which is on cloud. So it is different from the traditional data warehouses. One of the cool feature of BigQuery is it's allow both batch and the real-time processing. There are like some similar products in other cloud services also. So Azure have Azure Synapse Analytics, which is like Azure modern data warehouse. Snowflake is there, Amazon Redshift is there, etc. So where does the BigQuery fits in the lifecycle? As we know that the typical lifecycle of the data fall into 4 main categories. So one is ingest, store, process, and analyze, and the last one is the delivery, or you can say explore and visualization. At each life stage, we can see from the picture like Google provide multiple services, but we are focusing on BigQuery. And as the big question is, where does it fit? So it fits in basically 2 buckets. One is the storage, and the other one is the processing. And pretty much like the on-prem data warehouses, that's also serve the similar purpose, like it store the data and give the users as query engine to process and analyze the data. So it has the pretty much same purpose, but as we know, like it have a different architecture, and it it's like scalable, and it's like serverless. So it resolve a lot of like traditional data warehouse problems. So the one of the bigger problem of traditional data warehouse is scalability. Like it's hard to scale. The second problem is like we need a big IT team to manage it. The third is like it's very costly. So like BigQuery fits in the similar similar stages of data lifecycle, but solve like a lot of other problems. How can we access BigQuery? So BigQuery can be accessed basically by 4 mains. So one is through using the console, like using the browser. Second is through command line. The third is like calling the APIs of BigQuery, and our last one is like they have a client libraries for Java, .NET, and Python too. In this demo, we're going to use the GCP console, but like in future videos, we will have like other options. We're going to explore other options too. There is another thing I want to talk about is BigQuery SQL delegates. So BigQuery SQL delegates, like it support both standard and the legacy SQL, and by default it's a standard, which we can change. But don't be too worried about it. I know like you might be thinking, okay, now we have to learn some different SQL for BigQuery. No, that's not the case. It's not too complex. So basically the difference is like the standard SQL have more functionality than the legacy SQL, and some more functionality and some difference in syntax, which we see like when we move from, even in traditional data warehouses, when we move from one RDBMS to other, we see the difference. Like Microsoft SQL Server have some other syntax and functionalities than MySQL or DB2, those kind of things. So there is nothing to be worried here. Like you're not going to learn, like it is not going to be a very steep learning curve. And also, like if you're comfortable with SQL, you won't have major issues. And here are some major differences which I have observed. So the first one is the difference is escaping the reserved keywords and invalid identifiers. So in legacy SQL, we use the bracket. If you come from MS SQL background, like, like to use a keyword. So for example, date is a keyword, but we can use it as a field name by putting the bracket around it. In BigQuery, you can do the same, but in standard SQL, you can do the same, but using the backticks. The other is the comma operators with the table. So in some RDBMS, like the union of two tables is like if you write from table A, comma table B, it union them. But in here, you can't do this. Like in standard, we can't do this. We have to use the union all keyword, which I believe like more readable and make more sense. And then other piece is the other differences like the aliases, which I've observed like it's quite different in different SQLs. So here in legacy SQL, the aliases defined in SQL can be used in group by, having, or by, but not in where clause and all. And it's different for standard. And the last major difference, which is very handy, is like the standard SQL have new data types. So it have data type for geospatial data, interval data, like in time they can have like more breakdowns in it, JSON, struct. So don't be too worried about them. In upcoming videos, we're going to talk about all these. This, as I mentioned, this is like a basics of BigQuery, just to like start on BigQuery, give you an idea, okay, what is it, like how it works and all those kind of things. So there we will see all these new data types. Okay, the last piece I want to talk about the data organization in BigQuery. So BigQuery, like as you can see on the diagram, so there is like BigQuery services, and there are like there's two project X and Y, and in project X there are like two data sets, dataset A, dataset B, then table 1, table 2, and in project Y, dataset C and D. So here the project is basically the logical grouping. So it's pretty same as a resource group in Azure Cloud. So here, like you can think like anything related to a specific department can put into project X. So marketing department could be a project marketing. Y, it could be project finance, and in that we can have different data sets. Okay, data sets are pretty much like databases. So as in traditional data warehouse, we can have multiple databases. Similarly, in a project, we can have multiple data sets. Okay, and in data sets, we can have table and views, which is pretty similar to the traditional thing. So here, just the naming convention is a bit different, and the like just for understanding, like these things may not exactly the same, but like if we visualize, like they align pretty well, like they align pretty much same. Okay, let's jump to the demo and make it clear like how things look. Okay, let me go to demo. 1 second. Okay, cool. So as I mentioned, like we're going to do the demo on our the user console on the browser. So, and other pieces we will see in the future. So for the first thing first, like you need to have a project. So I already have a project named Airflow, but if you don't, like after login, you just need to like create like new project and give it a name. So let's give it a name, BigQuery. And you don't need to have like a worry about the organization. Just click on create. Okay, it takes some time to create projects, like it takes like a couple of minutes to do that, so don't worry about it, or it's done. And after that, like we jumping directly to the BigQuery service. So either there's a couple of ways to find it. So we can like type it here, BigQuery, and go from there, or we can click on this hamburger and scroll it down. And if you keep scrolling, in my case, you see BigQuery is already pinned, but when you will doing it, like you won't see it. So what you need to do, you need to scroll down, go to the analytics, like it's in the bottom somewhere. I might missed it. No, it's coming. Yeah, you see. Yeah, so in analytics sections, like you get BigQuery, you just click on pen, or if you don't want, like you can click on this SQL workspace and it will open a workspace for you. So we will look into the data transfer, schedule, query, and analytics hubs later. But the first thing is the SQL workspace, which if we collapse this, so this is our workspace. Let me do upgrade. Cancel. So don't worry about it. So, okay, this is like, I guess I open the sandbox. So sandbox is free if you want to be like, so there's like a couple of things. So one is like you can run a sandbox if you want to run things for free, and there is like a Google give you $300 credits to do stuff. You can use that too. And but like when we are learning BigQuery, I believe like it's as I mentioned, like they give like 10 gigs of data for storage per month, and 1 terabyte of data processing, I guess, per month, or it could be less. So when we are learning, we don't have that huge data set, so you can like go with your credit card and all those things, so it won't be that big problem. I'm not sure like why my sandbox is okay, I shut down, schedule to delete, a project can cancel this. Okay, this is my other project. I've just shut down a project. Let me go. Okay, so the first thing one, like this is the schedule. Sorry, what is the name? This is the workspace, and here you can see there are like two things are here, two pin projects. So one is our project, which is like BigQuery I just created, and this is the project ID. And if I expand this, there is nothing in it. And the other one is the BigQuery public data. So the BigQuery public data is basically, these are the third-party data sets that are stored in the BigQuery and made available to general public like us through a program named, I guess, Google Cloud Dataset program. So this is like this is very handy in when we are learning, like we don't have to worry about okay from where we get the data and all those. So we can like literally use these data sets to play around. So I just want to show you, if you expand this, like you will see like various data sets. So in this case, we have Austin 301, and there's like a lot of public data sets are available here. And by the way, in your case, you might not see here. So in that situations, what you have to do, you click on this add dataset, explore public datasets, then it will open a new window. If you want like whatever dataset, like whatever interests you, these are the categories you can pick from there, or you can search by their name. So let's, if we click on this, like I guess it will open a new window and there it will show you the data. So let's do this. View datasets. If I go, yeah, see, it's open a new window for BigQuery. It's the same, like we are in the same workspace. It's basically just open a new window, and here it shows you like what's the table schema, what's the details, like when it was created, what's its ID, what's its size, number of rows, all those kind of useful information, which is like all the metadata related to this, which is very useful. And the last one is like it will let us preview some data. If I click on this, so it will like preview some data, and it shows like first, like it's a sandbox, so that's why it's showing like first 500 columns, or maybe for some performance reason. But if you are not on sandbox, you are using like your paid account, the performance will be a bit different. Okay, so this is how you like access a public data set. Okay, if you want to query it, like just click on this query new tab, and it will open a new tab with it, and you will get a syntax error because it have all the format except like it's missing column name. So we can put select star, we can reduce it to 100. And the other thing I want to mention, like if you look at this query, everything very intuitive, nothing confusing. But one thing we need to keep in mind is the backtick. So this is like if you look at this, so this is a backtick. This is not the codes. Okay, so you need to be very cautious about it. So backtick is the thing which allow us to use reserve keywords, and also when we are referring to a table, this is in this we write the name of the table. And what is the format is like project name dot dataset name dot table name. Okay, if we run this, we'll see the data. Okay. One second, let me cancel. Okay, sorry, it was hang for a second, so it's just so you can see like it says this query will process like 10.2 GB of data when ran. So this is like execution thing I want to talk next. This is like very important. Like whenever we running a query and data is stored in the BigQuery, it gives us like how much, if we run the query, how much data we're going to process, how much time. Like it give you that thing in advance. So it is very handy to have this information in advance. The reason being is the cost. So as we know, like we have to pay money for storage and processing. So if we already know how much data we are processing and we know like, okay, we don't need that much, we can put filters or we can reduce the size. So like our cost will reduce. And the other thing is the execution details. So it tells us like exactly how much time it took, how much bytes were shuffled, and all those kind of information, which is like very handy. And I believe like these tools are, the combination of these are very important from that perspective, that from the cost perspective. And the other thing is like a BigQuery cache your queries. So if let's say we rerun this query, it will run faster because like this query is already cached. But if we change even a single thing, then like it won't be run from cache. And the other thing, even like data source, the source data source change, in that case also it won't be cached. So cache also is another feature that help us to be like running our queries with like cost effective way. So this is like this is a very cool feature, but this is only like it tells you how much data this query will process only if data is stored in BigQuery. If it is coming from any external source, no, we won't know that. In that case, we will get to know only after running the query. Okay, let me close this. So this is all about public data sets and the execution. And sorry, one second. Yeah, it's a bit slow. Yeah, that's I'm seeing like that's a bit slow. Okay, so like currently if we expand, we don't have anything in our project. So what we can do, we can create a data set. Okay, click on create data set, give it a name. Let's say SQL. I'll do demo. Okay. Oh, sorry, my bad. It picked the, let me delete this, because there are a couple of other options I want to show you. So, okay. Click on this, click on the project name, create dataset, SQL demo. And after that, the second thing is the location. So this is an important field to pick. This is like an important setting. Like basically it's common sense, like nothing crazy there. Like depending on your organization, depending on your requirements, like you have to pick the location like based on that. So for example, if your organization is across the country in US, you pick this. If it is like in my case is this place, I'll pick like North Virginia. So depending on like where are you, that's one factor. And the second is like who all going to use this data. So if the data is used across the country, I'll say like store it in multiple data centers. If it is used like in just in one region, then go to a specific reason. And this is the other option I want to show you. So here we can by default it is not it's not selected, but we can set a date, like after that our table will be expired in this data set. So like we can do, for example, so this is like another cool feature which like we don't have to worry. And the last one is the encryption. So if we have our own key, we can encrypt our data too. So let's create the data set. Okay, so now you see in our project we have a data set. So now we know how to create a data set. The next step is how to create a table. If you remember from that data structure, project, data set, and tables. So now we will create tables in it. So let's click on this, create table. And there are various ways we can create a table. We can create a tables from Google Cloud Storage, Amazon Amazon S3, Azure Blob Storage, and other places. And we can upload a file if we have. But for demo purposes, like we're going with an empty tables. And in future, we will look up the other options. And dataset name is there. What's table name? Let's give it test. And if we want, we can add data fields here. So simple ID, make it an integer, and we can provide like other information, like what kind of, like if it is the identifier. This is like I'm showing like how to do things manually, but if you have a file, like it can auto detect. Like for example, if we have a CSV, BigQuery will auto detect the schema of that. Okay, that's pretty much no partitioning, because like it's a small table. Like partitioning and clustering is very important, like when we're dealing with the big data sets. And as I mentioned, like this video is the basics, but in future we will in future videos these things we'll explore. So click on create table. So you see test table is created. So let's show you something. So if we're coming from like SQL backgrounds, like we can create tables like directly too. So for example, like using our DDL, we can create that table too. If we paste it here, Control V, and this query will process 0. This is because it's a DDL, so it won't have any problem. And as soon as we run it, you will get this error. And the error is why? Because like this table is created and the query is still there. So they say that. So if we go here and insert some data sets in it, and this is just for demo purposes, like in real world, like we don't insert data like that. It comes from some source, and we're going to talk about here too, like what's the source. And you see, like because it's not stored in BigQuery, so they don't know how much data is it. So click on run and click. So 17 rows are added to employee tables. If I click on this, so this give us schema, details, whatever, like when it was created, what's the name, what's the table size, how many records, and all those information, and we can preview here. And same thing, if I click on query, it will give me a query without column names, and I can put star, and let's reduce this to 10 just for, and you can see now, like previously it was like 0. Now it's showing because the data is stored in BigQuery. So now BigQuery know how much data are going to be processed. Okay, so now we know how to create a data set, how to create a table, how to access public data sets. So next thing we will look into how to save a query and share the query. Okay, so let's say this is our query. Let's do this, run, and okay, we looked into the execution. This is our result and all. So the next thing is like how we will share this. Like so the purpose could be like you might have a query which like you come every morning or let's say every other day, you want to check something. So that could be one query. This could be like various queries. So there could be two scenarios. Like you can share, like save those queries for yourself. So when you save queries for yourself, you can't, like other people can't see. The other thing is you can share the query for the whole project so other people can see it. So you click on the save query, give it a name. Let's give it my first query. Okay, And invisibility, you see there are like three options: public, like anybody can see it; project, which is specific to the project, anybody in project who have the access will be able to see the query. And some people who have here principals means like for example service account which have appropriate permissions, they can even change the query. And personal, if you is for yourself, but that won't be shared with the team. That's you saving the query but not sharing. So let's do this, save. Okay, so let's refresh this. Okay, so if we expand this, you see we have saved queries, one saved query which is under project query. So anybody who have access to this project will be able to access it, and appropriate permissions, like people might be able to change the query who have appropriate permissions. Okay, the next thing, like with the query itself, like if you click, let's close all this thing, 1 second. Like how you open it, just click on this, open, it will open. And from here we can get the link and share with other people. And when they get the link, still they need to have the table permission. It's not like whoever get the link will be able to execute the query. No, they need to have the access to the project, table, team, and then only. So let's say, assume you accidentally send this link to the people who are not part of the project. So don't worry, they won't be able to run anything. The other I want to show you, which we kind of talked, like private. So let's do this. My second query. Okay. Just save it. And this is private, so you see the difference. So this is only I will be able to see it. This is related to the project. And sharing, I mentioned, like you can get the link and share with it, or like you can click on here, it shows like get the link thing. Okay, the next piece is I want to talk about is the schedule. So if we go back here in our analysis, there are like 4 things: SQL workspace, which is this space where we are already, and the other is the schedule queries. So as the name says, like this is to schedule the queries. So we can schedule a query very quickly, but before that I want to do one more thing. So we have an employee table, so I want to create another table, employee 2, and I'll tell you why I'm doing this. So remove this. Oh, sorry. Close. And new query. So I go in editor, do this, and make another table name employee 2. Run. Okay, done. And you see we have another table here. Okay, now, oops, sorry, my bad. And we open this query, first query, and we want to schedule this. So let's go here, very simple. Okay, so I haven't enabled it, like so you click on enable the API. It should take a couple of seconds to do. Oh, okay, create schedule query. Now give it a name, let's say my first data load. Okay, like what's the frequency you want to run daily, or you can change it, like we stick it to daily. And you see like we getting an error, like a warning, like select statement must have a destination. So like our query is like selecting like all the records from employee. So what let me change this to daily, 1 more second, sorry. So I like started now and ended now, so that's, don't worry. So we need to actually, we need like a destination table, and that's the reason I created the second employee. So I go here, what's our SQL demo, then we enter employee, my bad, employee 2. And after that, the options like whether we want to append, override, location is default, We can change if we want. We can do it North Virginia. Save if you want, like you can send email notifications to yourself, and there is like pops up thing. This is the stuff I was mentioning, like we can do the real-time processing and streaming with BigQuery, which we will do in upcoming videos. Click on save. So 1 second, did we made a mistake? Okay, let's do the default. Oh, it looked like the service is not enabled yet, but like once you do this, like you go schedule queries, you will see that job here. Okay, so there is like that enabling thing has caused a problem, and this is like happening because of the sandbox. But the idea here is like once you schedule it, you will see it here, and because I put it on like current time, so it will run it right away. Okay, again we go to SQL workspace. Okay, so now we know how to create a data set, create a table, save and share the query, schedule the query, public data set. Now let's look at the query results. Like I'm gonna show you one thing, two more things. Okay, let's go to here. Oh no, let's do this. Let's use our saved query only. Okay, so we run this. So now we have the output. Okay, let me explain this. So here, here like our output can be stored in like 3 different ways. So by default, it's temporary. So temporary is like basically whatever output is coming, like it's stored in the temporary table. It's not persisted, and it's like it's useful in those cases where you're exploring the data, where you're playing with the data, you're trying to understand, or you're trying to do some ad hoc analysis or something like that. So that's like the default setting. But if you, let's say you got what you want, like let's say this is our final output, we want to put it in like a local file or something like that. So that can be done, like click here and you have multiple options to do it. Like we can store it on Google Drive locally, in Google Drive as a CSV, JSON, local file as a JSON. We can like even pass it to Google Sheets. So like multiple things can be done, and even we can copy what's the output in there, but there is a cap there, like it can't be more than 1 megabyte. Okay, so that's one thing. And I was like whenever we run this query, this data is not persisted. It's in a temporary location. As soon as our session is done, we won't be able to see it. But if you want to persist the output to something, like you go click on query settings and you see here the save query results, by default it's to the temporary. But if we want to save it somewhere, we can change it, then provide the data set and the table where we want to persist it. Okay, and the options, whether we want to append, overwrite, and those kind of things. So that can be done here too. That's the thing with query results. The last thing is the visualization. So BigQuery have this option. If you click on this, like explore data, you click on this, it will open in the new window. So we can do the visualization in DataStudio. I know like our data is not very, we don't have much in, but I'll very quickly, let's say, pick this, drag and drop, put it here. I haven't played around. Let's change this to something. Yeah, so you see, okay, I have only 10 records, so, and 10 employees, so 10%. But the idea here is like you do the visualization with BigQuery using DataStudio, and there are like other BI components like Tableau and Power BI, Looker, and all those. We can send this data there. Like I'm pretty sure like the Tableau and Looker is there, but Power BI I'm not sure. But like we can create our analytics data sets or like reporting data set, and after that we can hook it to BI applications, and from there we can build report on top of that. So this is like, I just want to give you an idea, like you can do visualization right away if you have something like you want to do some exploratory analysis, or you have some ad hoc thing to do. Okay, So there are like two pieces in this analysis which I want to talk about. Is one is the analytics hub, the other one is the data transfer. So data transfer is basically it's might not be enabled here, but basically this is a service which enable you to move data from external sources to BigQuery. As I was mentioning, like in the real world, like you won't insert, like you won't write insert, or like you don't upload the data from your local drive. This comes from a source, and so that source need to plug in with the BigQuery. So at the moment, like BigQuery supports 170 sources, and from there we can ingest data into the BigQuery. And the last is the Analytics Hub. So Analytics Hub is something which is launched very recently. So it's in preview, and it's a very cool feature. Like you should try it. So like it's launched a couple of days ago, maybe like 4th or 5th of April, and the big advantage I see here, like you create, like you as a data publisher, let's say you create an analytics data set from an organization perspective, you create it, you publish it, and after that, like your users subscribe to the data set. Like they get the read-only permission, and in that way you are sharing the data and you have more control over it. And it works something like kind of stock exchange. Like you have an exchange, you list your data and people can subscribe to it, which is pretty cool. But we will talk more about this in like future videos, but for now, like these things you need to keep in mind. Okay, the data transfer is to get the data in, like to ingest data into BigQuery, and Analytics Hub is like once you have your data ready for, let's say, like two projects are there, like your project is to generate the data and somebody's project is to consume. So you generate the data, how you share it, like you publish in the Analytics Hub and they subscribe from it. So we'll do that in like in near future, like how to, like in upcoming videos we will like we'll explore more features of BigQuery. So thank you, that's all for this video. Stay tuned for the next one. Have a good one.